Steve Rogers was already a man out of time. Now, he's a man out of space, and possibly for the first time, a man completely out of his depth. He's not storming the beaches of Normandy anymore. He's standing on a balcony in space Wakanda, staring at a massive futuristic spaceport, wondering if the universe is just messing with him at this point. Behind him comes the voice of Clint Barton, Hawkeye, and he's all, "Penny for your thoughts, old man?" Now, Steve doesn't answer right away because he's focused on Bucky, who is currently lying inside some Wakandan sci-fi medical scanner, looking like a corpse with a robot arm and a whole lot of trauma. Not exactly the plucky teen sidekick Steve remembers. Not even close, honestly. Hawkeye, who is understandably confused as hell, asks two very normal questions. Why are we in interstellar Wakanda? And weren't you dead? Steve then lets out a sigh before explaining his final World War II mission. The one where he crash-landed a plane into the Arctic Ocean, froze in ice, and faded into literal nothingness. He then woke up in a lab inside a glass tube being thawed out by a mysterious red-headed woman with a Russian accent. Upon hearing about this red-headed woman, Hawkeye bursts out the name, Natasha? Steve responds with silence. He then continues his story. Steve and Natasha escape the lab, which for the record is run by Alchemax, but they don't get very far. They're hit by a huge explosion where Steve protects her from the blast, but quickly realizes staying close will put her in danger, so he runs off. That's right, Steve Rogers is now ghosting Russian spies in addition to fighting fascism. Eventually, Steve runs into Logan. You know, the freaking Wolverine. They team up because why the hell not? They then head for the Wakandan embassy, a place Steve remembers from the war, except now it's abandoned, overgrown, and empty. Except for one statue, Bashenga, the first Black Panther, and an inscription that reads, "Since the birth of this nation, our people have reached for the stars. At last we have found them." Then a portal opens up next to the statue because of course it does. Being the heroic man he is, Steve steps through the portal and boom, he's in the intergalactic empire of Wakanda, a galaxy-spanning civilization run by T'Challa and his sister Shuri, who greet him like an old friend. Apparently T'Challa's father told him all about Steve, the man in star-spangled armor who once fought side by side with Wakanda during the war. Shuri, the absolute genius, makes Steve a brand new shield. Vibranium alloy, upgraded, fancy, this thing probably even has Bluetooth. While Steve's adjusting to the year 2099, he learns that things aren't great on the whole reality front. A phenomenon called the time stream entanglement is causing timelines to collapse in on each other. Think spaghetti multiverse, but with a lot more explosions. T'Challa and Shuri have already contacted other heroes from across dimensions, but tensions are rising. So they ask Steve for a favor. Assemble the best soldiers from across time and space. Of course Cap agrees. And the first name on his list? No, not Hawkeye, it's Bucky Barnes. But before Steve can finish explaining everything to Hawkeye, they notice a commotion. Bucky is awake, standing, and unstable. He says it feels like someone's whispering in his brain. And no, it's not Hydra. It's older, darker. Then everyone notices the statue of Bast, Wakanda's panther goddess, is now glowing red. Yeah, that's not good at all. Suddenly, Bucky's cybernetic arm starts changing. Organic tentacles burst from where it connects to his shoulder and they merge with the tech, reshaping it into something new. Then the flailing starts. Tentacles whip across the room, causing scientists to duck for cover. Steve luckily blocks one with his shield and yells, "Innocents are in danger. Let's move this outside." Yeah, that's my boy Cap right there. Steve and Hawkeye leap several stories to the spaceport below. Bucky follows, now in full monster mode. Steve then turns to Hawkeye and says, "We need to warn T'Challa and Shuri. Think you can pilot a Wakandan starship?" Hawkeye responds the only way he knows how. "I can pilot anything." He then immediately jumps into a Wakandan starship because of course he can. This is where Bucky lashes out with his tentacles, grabbing the ship midair. He doesn't budge at all. Not until Steve's shield ricochets across the spaceport, cuts the tentacles, and Steve catches it midair like a cinematic god. Bucky retracts the remaining vines into his arm. This is where Steve yells for Bucky to snap out of it, and Bucky just says no. Well, I guess that's it. We're done here, folks. Just kidding. Shuri shows up with the cavalry and some cold, hard science. Turns out Bucky's arm is made from vibranium, nanotech, and unstable molecules. That's both good and bad. Why? Because that combo is adaptable. So adaptable that it welcomed the creepy horror tentacles like a party guest. But, and this is the important part, the tech has a memory. It syncs to the user's natural energy, which means if they reset it, they might be able to override the corruption. Only problem? The reset point is the size of a pinhead and has to be hit manually. Cue Hawkeye. One shot? That's all I need. Shuri then loads the reboot code into a Komoyo beat and attaches it to Hawkeye's arrow. While Cap keeps Bucky busy in a dodge and weave spaceport dance, Hawkeye waits for the perfect angle. The arm shuts down. Tentacles drop, Bucky falls. Bucky, barely conscious, apologizes. Steve and Hawkeye rush to help the fallen soldier, with Shuri talking about more tests and how to possibly repurpose the weird energy inside of him. Bucky isn't really excited about this, but Steve just smiles and says, "You're not going through this alone. Not ever again." And for the first time in this wild, ridiculous, tentacle-filled future, Steve Rogers is glad to be back. Marvel Rivals doesn't just give us Captain America vs. Hydra. It gives us Captain America vs. Broken Time, space empires, and possessed BFFs with biomechanical horror arms. And somehow, Cap still feels like the guy you can count on, even if the timelines don't.